Welcome to Walking the Torah Portions. I'm Tyler Merwin, and this is Torah portion, PINCHAS. This week's portion is Numbers 25:10 through 29:40. The Haftarah this week is 1 Kings 18:46 through 19:21. Pinchas is usually translated in English Bible as Phineas. As in our opening line, and Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh said to Moses, Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath from the people of Israel, in that he was jealous with my jealousy among them, so that I did not consume the people of Israel in my jealousy. Numbers 25:10 and 11. This week's Torah portion continues the story after the righteous act of Pincus, when he slew an Israelite man and Midianite woman in the act of a pagan sex ritual in front of the tabernacle. This was because Balaam, the false prophet, taught Moab and Midian to lure the Israelite men into Baal worship through sexual allurement, which brought God's wrath upon Israel. God's wrath killed 24,000 people in a plague before the act of Pincus actually stopped it. Therefore say, Behold, I give to him my covenant of peace, and it shall be to him and to his descendants after him the covenant of a perpetual priesthood, because he was jealous for his God and made atonement for the people of Israel. Numbers 25:12 and 13. As a result of his actions, Pincus is given a covenant of peace, which was protection for him and his family against any who might try to retaliate against him and his act. He is also given a covenant of a perpetual priesthood, which means that the future lines of the Kohen Gadol, or the high priest, would come through him. We learn in verse 14 and 15 that the slain man was Zimri, a chief of the tribe of Simeon, and that the slain woman was Cosbi, the daughter of a prince of Midian, two people of nobility. The question that comes up regarding this is, was Pincus justified in his vigilante-type actions? The Torah has various violations that are sins unto death, but they aren't carried out in a vigilante-like style. They are instead handled through a court system, and if found guilty by 2 or 3 witnesses, the capital punishment is then, and only then, carried out. Well, God seemed to think that his actions were justified, and he actually rewards Pincus for his deeds. I think the key to understanding this is the fact that Pincus was a priest and he also was a Levite. The Levites were given the charge to physically guard the tabernacle, to strike down any common person who would try to encroach into holy spaces. Remember that there had to be a guard set up to stop anyone from approaching Mount Sinai when God descended on it in fire. And they were ordered to shoot any man or animal that dared to approach that holy place uninvited. I believe that Pincus did the same thing. The horrible act of Zimri and Cosbi at the very entrance of the tabernacle was idolatry that was physically encroaching into the holy space that God occupied in the tabernacle. So Pincus was not executing vigilante justice for violating a Torah command, but was instead guarding the tabernacle and the holiness of God's presence on earth. And this act actually saved countless lives by stopping the plague. God tells Moses to make an enemy of Midian and to strike them down for the matter of Peor that caused all of this. After the plague, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh said to Moses and to Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, Take a census of all the congregation of the people of Israel, from 20 years old and upward, by their fathers' houses, and all in Israel who are able to go to war. Numbers 26:1 and 2. Most of this chapter is of the new census, since they are again poised to take the promised land. The census is thought to have many purposes. So 3 of them would be to count everyone that now was still alive after the plague, to assist in determining the division of the promised land by the tribes, and also to determine the count of the fighting men of war. The census can be compared to the census that was taken in chapter 1 of Numbers, when they were at the first time poised to take the promised land. Contrasting the two counts, we see that Reuben lost 2,770, which is about a 6% loss. Simeon lost 37,100, a total of a 63% loss in the tribe of Simeon. Gad lost 5,150, an 11% loss. Judah, on the other hand, gained 1,900, which is about a 2.5% gain. Issachar gained 9,900, an 18% gain. Zebulun gained 3,100, a 5% gain. Ephraim lost 8,000, which is a 20% hit. Manasseh, on the other hand, gained 20,500, a whopping 64% gain. Benjamin gained 10,200, a 29% gain. Dan gained 1,700, a 3% gain. Asher gained 11,900, 29% gain. Naphtali lost 8,000. That was a 15% loss for Naphtali. And all in total, Israel lost in total head count 1,820, which is actually only a loss of 0.03%. So they ended up with a total head count of 601,730. That's actually statistically a very, very minute loss. Now it's assumed that Simeon took the heaviest loss due to the plague from the Baal of Peor incident, losing well over half the tribe. For those tribes that were with the heaviest losses, it's assumed that they were more involved with maybe the different rebellions that happened and occurred during the wilderness. And the tribes with healthy gains were the tribes that guarded themselves better in the wilderness, like Manasseh, that grew over 60%. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh spoke to Moses, saying, "Among these the land shall be divided for inheritance according to the number of names. To a large tribe you shall give a large inheritance, and to a small tribe you shall give a small inheritance. Every tribe shall be given its inheritance in proportion to its list. But the land shall be divided by lot. According to the names of the tribes of their fathers they shall inherit. Their inheritance shall be divided according to lot between the larger and the smaller." Numbers 26, 52 through 56. Location was determined by lot, but the quantity of land was determined by tribal size. The Levites are also counted from a month old and upward, for a total of 23,000, which is an increase of 1,000 from Numbers 1. Chapter 27 begins with the grievance of the daughters of Zelophehad. Zelophehad was from the tribe of Manasseh, and he had 5 daughters, Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tisra, but he had no sons. The daughters came to Moses and Eleazar and spoke with them at the entrance of the tabernacle. "Our father died in the wilderness. He was not among the company of those who gathered themselves together against Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh in the company of Korah, but died for his own sin. And he had no sons. Why should the name of our father be taken away from his clan because he had no son? Give us a possession among our father's brothers." Numbers 27, 3 and 4. Moses takes this request before the Holy One, and God answered, "The daughters of Zelophehad are right. You shall give them possession of an inheritance among their father's brothers, and transfer the inheritance of their father to them. And you shall speak to the people of Israel, saying, If a man dies and has no son, then you shall transfer his inheritance to his daughter. And if he has no daughter, then you shall give his inheritance to his brothers. And if he has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to his father's brothers. And if his father has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to the nearest kinsman of his clan, and he shall possess it. And it shall be for the people of Israel a statute and a rule, as Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh commanded Moses. Numbers 27, 7 through 11. There will be an expansion on this ruling later in the Torah, related to the issue that if the daughters married someone outside of their tribe, how that would affect the land inheritance. Next, the text focuses on Moses himself. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh said to Moses, "Go up into this mountain of Abarim, and see the land that I have given to the people of Israel. When you have seen it, you shall also be gathered to your people, as your brother Aaron was, because you rebelled against my word in the wilderness of Zin, when the congregation quarreled, failing to uphold me as holy at the waters before their eyes. These are the waters of Meribah, of Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin." Numbers 27, 12 through 14. Moses is given instruction about his death, but this won't actually physically happen till the end of Deuteronomy. Moses spoke to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, saying, "Let Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the God of the spirits of all flesh, appoint a man over the congregation, who shall go out before them and come in before them, who shall lead them out and bring them in, that the congregation of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh may not be as sheep that have no shepherd." Numbers 27, 15 through 17. Moses, true to his nature, out of concern for the people, requests that God provide Israel a leader, someone who's a military leader, and one who will be wise and gentle shepherd. So Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh said to Moses, "Take Joshua, the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay your hand on him." Numbers 27, 18. Joshua is that leader, Moses' trusted servant who has been by his side since Egypt. God instructs Moses to take Joshua before Eleazar the priest in the presence of all the congregation and commission him as Moses' replacement. This had to be done publicly to instill confidence with the people. Chapter 28 and 29 cover what are known as Musaf offerings, or additional offerings. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh spoke to Moses, saying, "Command the people of Israel, and say to them, my offering, my food for my food offerings, my pleasing aroma, you shall be careful to offer to me at its appointed time." Numbers 28, 1 and 2. Chapter 28 begins with the Tamid, or the regular daily Olah offerings, the morning lamb and the evening lamb, along with the grain offering and the drink offering that accompany them. Verse 9 begins the Musaf offerings, starting with the weekly Shabbat. In verse 11, we get to the offerings for Rosh Chodesh, which is the head or the beginning of the month, or moon. Verse 16 goes through the offerings of Passover, or Pesach, and the unleavened bread, or matzah, that 7-day feast that follows. Verse 26 lays out the offerings for Shavuot, or Pentecost, also known as the Feast of Weeks. Chapter 29 continues the Musaf offerings with the Feast of Yom Teruah, or the Feast of Trumpets, also known as Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year. Verse 7 covers offerings for Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Verse 12 through 38 cover the daily offerings of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, or Feast of Booths. There are 8 days of offerings in this section, and the offerings are slightly different for each day of the feast. The first day of the feast is the 15th of Tishrei, the 7th month. The first 7 days have a standard repeating pattern of the same offerings each and every day, except for the number of bulls that are offered each day. The first day of the feast, they are to offer 13 bulls. As we've covered before, the number 13 is the number for love, which is Ahava, and the number for unity, which is Echad. The second day of the feast, 12 bulls are offered. The third day, 11 bulls are offered, and so on and so on. So it continues to count down all the way to the 7th day of Sukkot. The 7th and last day of Sukkot is known as Hoshana Rabbah, or the Great Salvation, and has 7 bulls offered. The number 7, of course, is the number of wholeness and completion. So the pattern I see here throughout Sukkot is a complete or whole, which would be the number 7, unity and love, which is 13, between us and our Creator and our Savior, and the entire body of Messiah. The 8th day is a solemn assembly and has the same Musaf offerings as Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and is a day that alludes to eternity in the kingdom to come. These you shall offer to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh at your appointed feasts, in addition to your vow offerings and your freewill offerings, for your burnt offerings and for your grain offerings, and for your drink offerings and for your peace offerings. So Moses told the people of Israel everything, just as Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh had commanded Moses. Numbers 29, 39, and 40. May we not fall into the trap of Balaam, but have the righteous zeal of Pincus. May we care for one another like Moses cared for the people of Israel. And let us sacrifice our flesh daily to be made into the image of Yeshua. I pray this teaching has been edifying. Let's lift up the name of the Holy One with love in Echad. Shalom.